participants of this webinar. The topic for today's webinar is Enhancing Reading Habits and Mapping the Hidden Gems in the Process of Reading. As Mortimer J. Adler, the famous American philosopher and educationist, has said, reading is the basic tool in the living of a good life. A person who has the habit of reading has a whole wealth of knowledge at his disposal. And as we say, knowledge is power. Reading enhances our understanding and perception and also sharpens our skills. Today's webinar will foreground the significance of reading in the contemporary world. I welcome our esteemed resource person, Ms. Josephine Sneha T., who is a research scholar and editor cum reviewer in Agile International Literary Journal. Good afternoon, ma'am. This webinar is blessed by the gracious presence of respected Dr. Vandana Mishra ma'am, who is the principal as well as head of the chemistry department of our college. Good afternoon, ma'am. Dr. Bharat Singh Goyal sir, who is the IQAC in charge and head of the commerce department. Good afternoon, sir. I warmly welcome all the esteemed professors who have taken some time out from their busy schedule to join us today. And last but not the least, the students and literary enthusiasts who I hope would learn some valuable lesson from today's session. Without taking much time, I would now like to invite our respected principal, Dr. Vandana Mishra ma'am, to speak a few lines for all of us. Ma'am, please.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to all my colleagues and staff members who are attending this webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude in welcoming Ms. Josephine Sneha T., who is an accomplished scholar of English literature and language. I do appreciate the students and other participants who have shown their keen interest in this webinar today. Today's webinar addresses the necessity of inculcating reading habit, especially among the youth. The importance of reading books is indisputable. Reading habit not only expands our mind but also improves creative thinking. It sharpens our intellect as well as improves the power of concentration. By reading the books, an individual can upgrade knowledge and improve vocabulary. Reading good books inspire and motivate to face difficult situations which come across in our day-to-day life. Nowadays, it is observed that the younger generation does not show interest towards reading books, but they spend their valuable time on internet to about social media activities. It is a real fact that very few students are seen in the library spending time with books and attending classes in the college. This situation is extremely poor on their part. Our efforts in organizing this webinar is to highlight our participants and especially students to focus on reading good books rather spending time on internet or mobile. I am hopeful that today webinar would change their mindset up towards reading and would have all together different approach. I would be failing if I do not appreciate the efforts put in by Dr. Deepanvita, Dr. Goyal, Dr. Jarwal in organizing this webinar. Without taking much time, I would request Ms. Deepanvita to go ahead with webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring words. I now request respected Bharat Singh Goyal sir to introduce our resource person to the audience. Sir, please.
Respected Principal Madam and all participants, I am delighted to introduce our young and dynamic resource person, Ms. Josephine Snehati, who is a published author of 3 short stories, an active book reviewer, on various online platforms and a freelancing content writer. She is currently a research scholar in Coimbatore and is an editor cum reviewer in Agile International Literary Journal. She is a university rank holder in UG and gold medalist in her PG program. She has also completed MPhil in English as well as B.Ed, PGDCA.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, thank you, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank the principal, Dr. Vandana ma'am, the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Boyle sir, and the convener and co-convener of this event, Ganguly and Robin ma'am. Apart from that, I also would like to extend my thanks to the technical support team and also the heads and staff members of various departments. Last but not least, I would also like to thank the students who decided to show up for this event. Thank you all. So I'll start now. As stated in the introduction, the purpose or the motive of this webinar is to highlight the importance of reading, especially in this contemporary period, because the young minds does not know the concept of reading as they are involved in other affairs like social media, technology, etc. You would all be familiar with the four skills in English language, right? LSRW: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So these are all called as skills. So skills is not something inborn. You actually practice it, perfect it, and come out of flying colors. So that is what the skills are all about. So one of the important skill in English is reading. So reading is called as skills because it is like, even though you are not a reader before, in case you decide to read, maybe after the end of this webinar session, this is a validation. You can very well become a reader and become successful. So I don't want to go ahead. I'll now share the PPT. I hope my PPT is visible and my
Yes,
voice is audible as well. If
yes,
not, just
ma'am.
let me know.
Yeah, ma'am, your voice is audible and we can see the PPT as well.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Enhancing Reading Habits and Mapping the Hidden Gems in the Process of Reading. So, needless to say that we are all living in the digital age. So we some way or the other rely upon technology, and no doubt that these digital medium plays a vital role in our day-to-day life. So be it personal or professional life, we all rely upon it. Especially after this pandemic situation, we were all relying on technology for communication, connection, sharing information, be it for official purpose, etc. So I will also warn you that I'm not an enemy to technology because I basically review all these books in the online platform. So I post my reviews in Amazon, Goodreads, it is an app, and then also in Instagram. So I'm definitely not an enemy to that. And I also would like to say that behind every online content, the online content creators put so much of hard work and effort. At the same time, it should also be used for getting book suggestions as well. So, of course, New Year was just few days back. So everyone would have handled or would come across a resolution or goals to achieve in the forthcoming year, right? So you would have like particular set of goals to achieve in the forthcoming year. That is for the 2021. So do you know what are the top three goals that people actually have every year? Let's see. The first one is to lose or to gain weight. So every person you meet would actually either be complaining about losing or gaining weight. And the second one is to stop postponing things. So every person we meet someday or the other, they would postpone things. Okay, let me do this tomorrow. Okay, I have some time. Let me do it later. So this postponing is the biggest evil. So of course, they try to cut down this quality. And the third one is to read more. It does not even say to read, it says read more. Yes, reading has managed to get into the top 3 goals of almost like all the person. This is a universal survey. This is what it states. So why do you think? So, I mean, in the previous slide, I said that technology is overcoming everything. Students do not read. Most of them do not find time to read. They are always immersed in Netflix. If so, why didn't technology actually find its place in the top 3 goals? Maybe if technology is winning, then probably the goals should be like maybe I should use WhatsApp more, or maybe I should use internet some more. I must increase my online time. It doesn't say so. It says read more because reading is that much important. So, do you think reading is important? Yes, because reading is always linked with professional success. Reading does not end with schooling or with the college life, but it keeps on going. It is an ongoing process till death. So, when you begin like a toddler. So you start learning the alphabets, you start learning the speech signs and everything, and then you start reading small alphabets, sentences, and then you get into the school, you read paragraphs, essays, and then you go to college, you write analytical essays, critical essays. You do not end there. Once you get into the professional life, you start reading reports, you start writing like maybe memos or reports, etc., emails, you compose emails. So everything basically demands reading. So reading is an ever going process. So apart from professional life, reading also gives you a variety of experiences which you cannot attain in your day to day life. So, for example, not everyone are blessed to travel, especially after this pandemic. I don't think traveling is possible. So, in that case, you can always go to a book. It provides a lot of experiences. And the second one is it provides pathway to different knowledge. So, of course, even though technology goes the higher hand and we use WhatsApp, Facebook, internet, and everything, so we use the statement called outdated. But knowledge never gets outdated. It is always permanent. You, of course, need knowledge to carry a conversation with others. To remain in the field, you need knowledge, not just in the professional side, but also in the life. To be relatable, you need some kind of knowledge, and this will be provided only by the reading habit. And also, a person who reads well can actually become a better writer and a better speaker. So, this is a good quality because you're attaining all the 3 things in the uh, object called books. So for clarity, I'm actually stating there are 2 types of reading. So one is reading for purpose and the second one is reading for pleasure. So I'm not the person who's going to tell which kind of reading you're supposed to follow, because it ultimately remains in your hands. So you have to choose which reading is suitable. So when you open your textbooks, it's not possible for you to read for pleasure. So reading for pleasure involves in maybe getting a very cozy place and then lying down and reading and enjoying. So while reading a textbook or while reading something in order to make a report, you need to be very careful. You need to start underlining things, jot down important points. So this is something different. It requires like more of your concentration. But then reading for pleasure involves in reading novels, fiction, magazine, comics, etc. So these are the ones which you read for pleasure. So this is for your clarity, I'm saying. So there are a lot of hidden gems in the process of reading. So first I'll be revealing this so that it will be easier for me to convey what are the things you can do to enhance your reading habits. So there are a lot of treasures hidden beneath the concept of reading. And the first one is reading is nothing but an exercise to the mind. Yes. So when you read, almost like all the parts of your brain gets activated. So your body cannot survive when you keep on sleeping, right? So someday or the other, you have to get out, do physical tasks, and then for that, you need to consume food, and then you take rest so that your body gets ready for your work next day. So a body cannot remain idle. It needs to work. It needs physical activity. Similarly, your mind also requires physical working or a mental workout. So when you read, your 2 kind of abilities get activated. One is comprehension abilities and the second one is analytical abilities. So when you're reading, you're able to understand it. So that is comprehension. And the more you read, you start questioning yourself. Is it true? Is it possible? Is there another way to do it? So both your comprehending and analytical skills start working, which is actually a good exercise for your mind, which will eventually get reflected in your body. When your mind starts working well, your body also works very well. So reading is one of the best mental workup in order to keep your mind very young. So you would have come across diseases like dementia and Alzheimer, etc. So it actually involves in forgetting the information. So they actually forget everything and they remain just like that. So these kind of diseases can be prevented if you start doing these small exercises. So the exercises here means reading, of course. So once you do this workout every day, what happens is that you start recalling information easier than the usual. So of course most of the students would come across like maybe I'm not able to remember things I read. So in that case you can actually start reading one page at a time. So not the textbooks but a novel or a short story you can start reading for pleasure, and then you will find that daily that you'll be able to recall the information much better. And the second treasure is reading develops language communication skills. Yes. So reading more or less improves your writing skill. So there are many who would say that, okay, I'm able to read, but I'm not able to write. I'm unable to write when it comes to the exam. I'm not able to expand the answers for the questions. So most of the English literature student would face this issue. This is because of the lack of reading habit. So when you read and read more, you will able to notice the difference in your writing style, because you will come across new words, different perspectives they are used, so that you'll start imitating it in your answers or in your day-to-day life. So you will obviously feel that your writing style increases. So, and also a best example is that you will never see a writer who says, so I'm a writer, but I hate reading. You will not find. It is more or less like finding a director saying, so I'm making films, but I haven't even watched a film. Is that possible? Of course, no. You really need to become a filmmaker to watch lots of films, take notes from it, get ideas, get inspired. Only this inspiration will make you what you want to be. So keep reading. And the next thing is, reading definitely perfects your way of communication skills. Of course, there are separate classes, coaching classes conducted for improving your communication skills, but I would say start reading one page per day. You will definitely see maybe at the end of the year your communication has definitely developed. Why is that? Because when you read, you start understanding the language, the way the sentence structure is formed. So in grammar classes you would have been taught sentence pattern, subject, verb, object, how it needs to be placed. You cannot place it alternatively. So instead of getting a theoretical class, when you actually start reading on your own, you will actually understand how a subject should be placed, how a verb, how an object. There are two types of object, indirect object, direct object. So how they are placed. You will start realizing yourself. So obviously you will get a better command over the language. So we are all not native speakers of English. So we definitely need to follow this trick to get mastery over it. Since we are talking about language, the third treasure is to develop your language skills. Obviously, so it is more or less the same. So we are all not native speakers of English. So we are all definitely learning. I wouldn't say that I'm a mastery over this English language. I'm also learning, because we are all second language speakers. So we need to read a lot of materials from English, so that it will be easy for us to develop. And of course, you're reading your textbooks in English language, but still they are all theories and concepts. But if you learn through stories, you will learn it very quicker. So if you remember your native language, be it Hindi, Malayalam, Telugu, Tamil, or whatever it is, your mother would have taught certain stories. She will be telling stories to make you eat or make you sleep. But then stories are the better way to learn the language very easier. Because when you read the stories, you would find same words are used in different contexts. So you would actually know the differences, the way they are used in different contexts, and the way you understand the meaning, and this will eventually improve your vocabulary. And of course, you may speak in English in your college, which is very good, but then language requires building more vocabulary, which is much more than their daily conversation, because the way I'm speaking might be different from what I write. So a daily conversation does not involve in a standard English. So we need to read to in order to build a better vocabulary in case you wish to go to corporate side or etc. And the next treasure is finding yourself. So this is, of course, once again very important. A lot of times question arise, who am I? What am I even doing? The answer to what you're dealing with. So when you read these books, it actually widens your perspective. To be honest, all our thoughts are very narrow because maybe we get up at home and then we go to work and then you come back, you sleep. So this is what our life is all about basically. So we will have a narrow thoughts. We do not think, we do not widen our perspective. But when you read about a lot of characters, lot of problems, lot of issues. So it eventually widens your perspective. This shows difference in the way you think, the way you deal with your everyday issues, etc. Eventually, it shapes your attitude also. And also, if you're actually having this identity crisis that who am I or what am I doing, then of course you can pick books. And when you read books, you will find characters which will impress you. So this is the same thing that happens with movies, right? When you watch a movie, you actually find a character to be very impressive. You try to imitate it. So this is what this is all about. So when you read a good book, a good character comes and you might feel that maybe this is something similar and I should actually follow it. So the same thing happens. For example, when you read the book called Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes is a detective in literature. So when you read him, of course, not everybody can become a detective, right? But then maybe you would get the qualities of being more observant because a detective is supposed to observe all the teeny tiny details that happen. So you'll become more observant and you will not feel uh, like maybe immersed or something. So you might feel very confident and observant in your day to day life. And another example will be Harry Potter. So remember when Harry Potter came that everyone wanted to go to Hogwarts. Of course, Hogwarts is not a real school, it is a magical school. But then you can learn a lot of good things from Harry Potter, like about friendship. The friendship between Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And Hermione is like a nerd. She studies well, so you can get that good quality. Or how Ron speaks for his friends, or Harry, who actually there is a battle between good and evil. So, of course, in our day to day life, we face the battle between good and evil. So, it says no matter how evil tries to overcome you, the good always wins. So, these are the good things you get, and of course, it shapes your identity. And the next thing is reading is a therapy. Yes, everyone in some stage of life you would feel very low down and your energy levels would be decreased. So in that case you need to relax your mind and your body. So as stated in the first point, reading is more or less like an exercise to the mind. So, of course, this is more or less the same. So, books can be a perfect escape from the reality. So, when you don't want to deal with the reality situation, you can start reading books. But that doesn't mean like when you don't want to go to college, you can read books. Not of that sort. Maybe after coming from a hectic day from work or college, you can start reading books, maybe a very light comedy or a very light-hearted read which will make you feel relaxed or think about, okay, fine, I'm doing well. So it cheers you down, and there are books which motivate you, like the self-help books, autobiographies, biographies. So when you read it, you feel very energetic and refreshing, that you don't really want to be sad but want to do something else the next day. So of course it recharges your level, and with that way many, and that is why most of the businessmen and the entrepreneurs, they actually read while going before sleeping, because they do not have time to read while they're working, right? So when they go home before sleeping, they actually read like at least 10 to 20 pages. So they even say that you get good sleep. Of course, you can also try this. Maybe before sleeping you can start reading. Maybe eventually you will sleep in the initial stages, but then as time goes on you will actually pick up. So it is a good therapy, so you can very well try it. And the next one is reading can be a problem solving. So yes, there are times that we feel that there is nobody we can turn up to and tell our problems. So in that case, when you are actually have this habit of reading, you will start noticing the tiny details. So when a problem comes, you will feel so energetic that you want to pop there and then finish it, where we ignore all the details. But when you read, maybe you will start being observant, patient, and you will notice what is wrong in this issue, which is very, very, very important. So maybe after observing everything, you'll start putting all the pieces together just like a puzzle. And then you would feel that maybe you have come to the end of the problem and you would have found a solution. So And this is a similar concept to where, like when you're watching a movie, so you're like repeatedly watching movies of same genres, and then like maybe when you're watching film A, B, C, D. So A has a similar concept to D. So when you're watching the movie D, you would find who the murderer is or who the villain is. How? You're not a film director, you do not read the script, but how did you know? Because your mind has this pattern of observing things and keeping it in memory. So similarly, when you read a book and there is some kind of problem faced, and then the similar thing happens in your real life, your mind automatically starts reminding you, okay, you have read this something, so why don't you use it there? Or it can also be a disclaimer like, okay, so a character like this did something of this type, and so do not try this. So in both the ways, it is good for you. So it gives you the solution. This is the motive that writer actually writes the book. They try to give solution to the problems in the society. So these character might actually be guiding you. So in case you're looking for a problem solving method, start reading. And the next one is improving attention. So everyone would actually agree with me that we are always feel distracted or being interrupted by something or the other. And after this lockdown situation, you would have just realized no more the mails are actually the medium of communication professionally, but we use WhatsApp messages, we use Google Meet mails, and we are actually juggling between all the different types of apps. So it obviously reduces our focus and attention, which results in lower productivity. So this can, of course, you cannot say that, okay, so I'm going to improve my attention, I'm going to completely avoid these WhatsApp mails and Google Meet. You cannot say that, because this is like become very essential, and also it is important for your professional or your personal life. So you cannot avoid it. But the only thing you can do is to help to block out all the noise. So how can you do it? You can avoid or you can reduce this short attention span by actually reading. So when you start reading, it is more or less like your mind is working, as I told you before. And of course, you will get all the attention focused. Initially, you may feel distracted while reading, but then as time goes on and on, it is all about practice, right? So when you practice, you might feel that your attention is getting focused or your distraction is being reduced. And this is why I iterate the point that it is important to read, especially in this digital age, because it can also be as a medium to avoid social media for few minutes. It's not like completely possible to, I wouldn't say like, okay, completely ignore your phone for a day or a month. Of course, it's not possible, because it's like every day you need to attend classes, check mails, respond to certain things through the mobile. So of course you need it. So but you can improve your attention by reading physical books, so that it gives you some time or some kind of rest to your eyes, to your brain, and then you can actually leisurely read in a spot where you can actually find your peace of mind. And of course, it is like one way to improve your focus and your attention. So this is like the last part. Consider it as an important point. Reading is actually fun. Yes. So there is a social media term called fantastic, just like fantastic. So it's like fantastic. So reading is fun, true. Just like a good movie, a good song, a book is also filled with loads of fun. So when you read a book, you enter into the world of wizards, different galaxy, fairies, and it takes you to the places you have never been. To be honest, in this situation, we are not able to travel anywhere. So suddenly, if I feel, okay, what the buildings of London look like, so what does it mean, or how it looks like, or how the streets are, how the people are, maybe I'll take a book that talks about London. I would read it. So there are stories which will have London as the background. When you read it, you automatically are teleported into this place. So maybe for few minutes or like few hours, you feel immersed in this world, and you can actually get this fun. Of course, it is a second hand experience. The first hand experience of traveling is different, but in case you cannot do, not everyone are allowed to travel. So in that case, you can always pick reading. It is the best or the greatest pastime where you read, where you can have fun, learn something, and also relax yourself. So this is a very short portion where I'll be giving you the tips to enhance your reading habits. It's not like you have to follow only this, but then of course there are many other methods, but these are proven to be best. So you can actually enhance your reading habits by setting a goal. So just like you set a goal for the new year, set a reading goal separately. So keep the goal something which is practical. Being a beginner, one cannot say that, okay, I'm going to read like 365 books in a year or 100 books in a year. That is not possible because you have other tasks to do, other tasks to be completed. So maybe set like, I will read at least five books this year. Or if you're like a very slow reader, then like 2 to 3 books a year. So never underestimate it, because maybe if you read 2 to 3 books a year, someday you might increase the speed, you might increase the books also. And then maintain a diary or a planner, or you can even write it in a separate note for this, where you can just like start recording, this is the book I read, so in this date I have started and in this date I have completed. So it's more or less like a reminder for you that you have accomplished something that year. And if you are not like a fan of making records, then there is an app called Goodreads. So it actually tracks all your reading process. So you have to manually enter. You can actually download this app in the Play Store. So in the search button, you have to search like the book name, it will come. So you can add it to the list, whether you want to read it or you have already read it. You have manually do it. It keeps record of it. So someday when you see, you might actually be proud of all the books you have read. And there are also short reviews there, so you can even check like what are the reviews posted. Even you can post a review. This would once again increase your writing skills or your social skills as well. And the next one is start reading like 10 to 20 pages every day. But since you're students and you're beginners, you can even start by reading 2 to 3 pages. No offense, there is not like, okay, you should read like 20 to 30 pages. Of course not. Read how much ever possible you can, but make sure that none of the day passes without reading at least one page. So one page that is not related to your academics or related to your project. This is what I'm talking about, the fictional or non-fictional books which you read for pleasure and also for information. So this is one of the good trick that most of the business people, busy people, entrepreneurs actually follow, that before going to sleep, they actually read at least 10 to 20 pages. So even though it actually looks like they are actually reading only few pages, someday they might actually complete this book. And also this is a very like a good trick, because start telling the story. So if you read a book, a short story, start telling the story or about the book you read to your friends or your family members. Of course we discuss everything with our friends, right? So you can start telling the story to your friends or to your family members, because this once again enhances your speaking skills, because you're speaking. Start telling it in your local language first and then use English. So obviously you are getting well versed in both the languages, so that is a good thing. And then start writing on your own. So it doesn't mean like you have to get it published or to show it to everyone or anything. If you want to, very well, go ahead, but have a small note or a paper, start writing your own small tales or write the summary of the story you read. This obviously increases your writing skills, your handwriting gets improved, you will get writing speed, which most of the students suffer while writing the exams. And use reading as a stress buster. As I told you, if you're feeling stressed, you can have a light read or anything which actually motivates you or gives you energy, and use it as a good stress buster. Also, of course, when you're stressed, you tend to listen to music or watch movies. Actually, you can like substitute it. Instead of watching a movie one day, maybe you can like switch it with the books, and then you listen to the songs, and maybe the next time you can read the books. So somewhat like that. I wouldn't say like completely avoid music, completely just get away with the books and then avoid everything. No, just balance it. It is all about learning to balance, because everything is important. Music is important, movies are important, going out, going for a walk, everything is important. So balance it on. In case you're not into reading, at least visit the libraries and bookshops. You might actually come across the titles, read those titles, and at the back of the book there'll be a blurb which says something short about the book. So at least read it. It, of course, someday it might be helpful, we do not know. And then comes the usage of technology. Of course, our life and technology is overlapping, so we make well use of the laptop, computers, mobile for reading. We now have got like a lot of PDFs available in the internet. So in case you do not want to spend your money for buying books, you can very well get ebooks which is available free in the internet. And also there is a Kindle device, more or less like a tab. You can completely use it for reading, or in case if you're not okay with it, then there is an app called Kindle. You can download it in your mobile. There are a lot of free books, and books are available in a very easy way wherever you go, in the college, in the class, whenever you are free, of course. And then in Instagram, there are like lots of bookstagrammers. They're more or less like influencers. So they post about books. So this is my Insta handle, Read with Sneha. So you can actually visit and see in Instagram. It is completely dedicated for books alone. So there will be like pictures of books, my library, and about the book reviews. So in case you do not know where to start reading, but you are interested in reading, very well you can visit this, because when you go and see there are like lots of reviews, and you might find, okay, so this is somewhat relatable, so maybe I like this love story, maybe I like this thrilling story, murder mystery. You can very well go ahead, and this is for your reference. So you can actually read these books for pleasure. Fiction, non-fiction is there in case you are interested in fantasy, science fiction, romance, historical fiction, young adult, thriller. You can very well go for it. Or you're looking for something energetic and inspiring, you can go for autobiography or biography, self-help. Or else you're looking for information, preparing for higher exams like UPSC, etc. You can go ahead for periodicals, magazines, newspaper, etc. So it lies in your hands. So I'm not the one who's going to say, okay, this is the perfect fiction, you have to read it. Of course, no. So these are the available genres. You can pick whatever you are interested in. And of course, no judgments. Just because a person reads romance, it's not wrong. It is all about getting the habit. Once you start reading, because we all begin this journey by reading Chetan Bhagat books. Of course, there is like a lot of standard books, but we all began reading this for fun during school days. And then we eventually developed to the classics. So that is how you grow and develop. So no judgments whether you read romance or historical fiction, whatever it is, but just keep reading. So these are the few book recommendations for the beginners. Just because it says beginners doesn't mean it is of less compact, but these are some of the books written in a very simple language so that the beginners need not refer to dictionary every time they read. Actually, it is one of the like a drawback the beginners face, that every time they try to read a book, they have to consult a dictionary or get the help of the others to know what the meaning is. So these are very, very simple books. So if you take Sudha Murthy, so she's an Indian writer, and it is a very non-fiction book, her book like 3000 Stitches, where she records her own life incidences in India. So when you read it, you may find it very relatable. Also, Abdul Kalam, who has written his own book and his experiences. So you can start reading these. So when you start reading these, everything I stated before, the treasures, you will be able to find it. You can actually make a note of it if you want. So before closing, I would like to read the statement of Charles Jones. The only difference between who you are today and the person you will be in 5 years will come from the books you read and the people you associate with. Yes, it is true. So you do not know where you will be in 5 years. So you're all here now in this webinar. Of course, even I do not know where I will be in 5 years, but it is definitely based on the people whom I'm actually associated with, my friends, my family members, or my colleagues, my everyone, and also the books I read. It is true. The person you are seeing now is not exactly the same who I was previously. Everything changed only because of this reading. Only because of reading, I was able to write books. Only because of writing, I was able to speak confidently like this. So if you want to become someone like this, then start reading, and this is the right time. So with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. And also, I'll stop sharing my screen. And I would like to say something in the end. Stay safe, make healthy choices, and to make healthy choices, keep reading, because reading definitely decides who you will be in the future. So keep reading. If you want any book recommendations, suggestions, visit my Instagram handle, Read with Sneha. With that, thank you all the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. I'm sure all of us have learned something new and valuable from today's webinar. I now invite Professor Robin Sheikh for the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I don't think you're audible. There is a slight technical issue. Just give us a minute.
Ma'am, for organizing such a wonderful and resourceful and helping webinar topic. In today's webinar, we learn the habit of reading is an invaluable asset. It helps in personality development, improves social skills, and enhances our vocabulary. Knowledge is not limited to just academic textbook. Even fiction, non-fiction, textbooks, comics, and magazines offers a vast treasure of knowledge. Reading is important because words are the building blocks of life, and life is incomplete without it. Thank you, ma'am, for this informative session. Now, I end this webinar by thanking all of you once again for joining us in making this a successful event. My sincere thanks to our support system, the technical system, Dr. Lokesh Jarwal sir, Dr. Manish Bhai, and Bhavna Joshi for your technical support. My heartfelt thanks to each and every one of the participants who gave their pleasure time, important for this webinar.